Ooh, scratchy. Hey, it's me, John. Bad yellow guy. I'm back from vacation. I don't have the energy right now to drop a full video on some cool part, but I did want to talk for a minute about sustaining damage in this industry. And I guess pretty much like in any industry, if you're physically active, uh, I don't know how to convey it in a way that will make sense to young mechanics because here's the problem. When you're young, you're invincible, and you can often just be tough and just muscle your way through a problem. Those injuries accumulate though, and at a certain point, you find that it's actually starting to impede your efficacy when it comes to the amount of torque you can put into something. And shit, I mean, even for me, for at least a couple months out of the year, I basically can't do my job. I have to like ask people to help me out with stuff. So when I was a kid, my first shop that I worked at, the owner would see me doing something, and I would just be torquing something, just like, you know, fucking just going as hard as I possibly could. And he would always chastise me. He would always say, "Look, you know, you're not going to have this young body forever. At some point, you're going to start getting hurt, and once you start accruing those injuries, there's no coming back from that. Like, you will be fucked forever, and fucked forever is what I have become." So here's what's up with me. I have tendonitis in my left elbow on the inside. It's colloquially known as golfer's elbow. It's epicondylitis, and it is a bitch. Oh my god. It basically never heals. It just sits there hurting, and it's just a continuum of how much it hurts. It's like, does it hurt a little bit so I can work, or does it hurt so much that I can't use that arm? Now, I figured out some ways to sort of kill the pain a little bit. I use this twisty rubber dildo called a TheraBand Flex Wand or something, which seems to, it's pretty good. It like breaks up the tissue in there and starts it to heal. I have a compression strap which holds the tendon against the bone and keeps it from popping out. And I rub CBD like weed jointment into my elbow at every opportunity, and that really kills the pain. It doesn't have to be that way. Like, I know exactly what caused that injury, and it's simply me using improper leverage when I'm torquing on stuff. And now I use an appropriate length of tool when I'm tightening or loosening something, and so it is kept at bay. But the reason it exists at all is overuse. It's an overuse type injury from working 10 hours a day for fucking like 20 years at a bike shop. Um, Another one that is just a crippler for me is I keep breaking my sternum. So years ago, because of an impact, I sort of cracked or separated the cartilage that holds my sternum and my ribs together. And pretty much literally once a year, I break my sternum again. This last time, and also like, try not to rush. I know I'm sitting here, an old hat at this stuff. I'm like 37, been doing this forever, and I'm still hurting myself. So it's like the pot calling the kettle black. I am basically like, you ever see those old Time Life books, the photography books, where they'd show a surgeon on his break, and he'd be like drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes? I'm basically that surgeon. I'm like, do as I say, not as I do. I mean, it's just the same friendly warning that other people gave me that I didn't listen to because I thought I was invincible. So the sternum break is a bitch. So sometimes you need a little extra push to get like a rear wheel into a bike. So, you know, I'll generally use the front of my chest. Like, I'll be behind the bike, I'll be sort of aligning the axle of the wheel into the dropouts. This happens especially on e-bikes because the wheel's really heavy. They require either a sorry, they require either a slotted axle or anti-rotation washers. So generally speaking, the wheel is producing torque to drive you forward, so it needs to stay put in your dropouts. You know, your dropouts are little slits like this, and so the actual axle is either slotted, so it's, you know, rounder on one end than it is on the sides, so it fits in, or more commonly, it's got anti-rotation washers, and you'll see these same washers on internally geared hubs, where they don't want the axle to rotate whatsoever. So those are simply washers that fit onto the slotted axle, a smaller slotted axle, and then they have a little tab which fits into your frame in such a way that the axle cannot rotate when the nuts are tightened down. So I had this really heavy electric bike wheel. The motor was in the hub, and I was pushing fairly hard, I guess, against it using my chest, and I just heard the pop, and my legs went out from under me. My coworker thought I was having a heart attack. It was kind of funny. Yeah, that part of my body will never, ever heal the same again. You know, I give it rest. It's like 350 days in between each time I break it. And so the problem with me is that I have a memory of how strong I am in my head, right? So, like, my brain tells me you could go 10% harder, you can go 25% harder. My body, even at 37, is no longer able to reach what my mind thinks it should. So what do we do about this? You know, how do we wrench in a way that is conducive to our long-term health and success in this industry? For me, a lot of that has been changing habits. So the number one is just a simple, let gravity help you. I would say I can't tell you how many times I've seen mechanics trying to remove a bottom bracket or a stuck fastener, and they're like under the bike, like pushing up. It's like, no, like, let gravity help you. Like, put it in such a way that you push down on it with your body weight. Number two, and this is a big one, I would say, don't just think of what you're doing now. You have to think about where the tool's going to be if the tool suddenly breaks, if the fastener gives way really quickly. Like, where, when this breaks free, are your fingers going to be? You know, a lot of stuff when we see stuck crank bolts or whatever, people punch chain rings by mistake. You know, my rule of thumb is, like, don't grasp a tool like this. Sort of hold it open-handed so that when it breaks free, you slide down and out away from it, not into the chain ring punching it. Another thing I would say for repetitive stress injuries that I've found to be pretty decent is using power tools. I don't know what it is. Like, it's this weird, like, machismo or whatever, but when I was a kid, I like how I can see this, the phone screen shadow. It's real professional. When I was a kid, like, you didn't really use ratchets or power tools. You just sort of, I don't know if it was the culture of the particular shops that I was in, but it was a lot more like just analog. Like, don't use power tools. That's for cheaters. That's for, like, you know, auto mechanics or whatever. And then at a certain point, I just went, fuck that. And I got a bunch of impact drivers and drills and like electric ratchets and stuff. And, you know, there's no glory to be found in turning a tool 100 billion times, okay? Like, if you can speed up your process, and the problem with power tools is that a lot of people misuse them. So, for instance, if you're zipping off disc brake rotor bolts, in my personal opinion, you want to remove them with the impact driver, and then when you reinstall a new rotor, I personally do this and would like you to do the same. Start each one of the rotor bolts by hand. Just get 1 or 2 threads of engagement. Then you can zip them in using the impact driver. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone say, oh, yeah, use power tools. And they put the fastener on the tip of the driver, like a T25 on the tip of their impact driver. And then they put it into the hub and just go brrrr, and they cross thread or tear the threads out of the hub. Like, that's not so good, you know? That could be an expensive mistake. So how about start your fasteners by hand? That's a good rule of thumb. Still, use the power tools. You know, stuck bottom brackets. I take out the big snap-on fucking whatever it is, like 18-volt impact driver. It's 3/8 of an inch square drive on the front. It's a big heavy anvil, and it's got super huge amounts of torque. There are bottom brackets that are so stuck that you need to get the oh yes you will bar. You need to get the persuader. So, you know, you'll take a 1-inch wrench and put it onto the bottom bracket tool. Like, let's say it was a Hollowtech 2, or like, let's say it's like even a square taper bottom bracket. You'll take your tool, the splined one that removes and installs the bottom bracket. You'll put that on. Then you'll take the Pedro's tool, which is a small screw that holds that tool in place so it cannot slip. Then you'll take a 1-inch wrench, and you'll take the box end, and you'll put that over the bottom bracket tool. And then you'll take the Park tool, whatever, I don't know, I don't remember the designation for this tool, but it's like a giant torsion bar or torque bar. Like, it's adjustable and it's fucking 3 feet long. So you take all of this stack of things, and then maybe you'll be able to like remove the bottom bracket. I have found that in most of those occasions, if I just take out my lithium ion powered fucking 18 volt impact driver, and because the Shimano bottom bracket tool has a square drive in the back, I click it on to the impact driver, that thing will blow the bottom bracket out of the bike. So all those times I busted my hands, busted my knuckles, every time that I like had someone hold the bike and struggled to get the goddamn things out, 99% of the time using a decent impact driver, and it could be like pneumatic. If you have strong enough air pressure to run a pneumatic one, they do make a cool like noise, but the electric ones are fine, and they will obliterate most stuck parts. There is a maturity level that you need to have to work with powerful power tools. It's like they can be safer, and in the long term, I think that they make a lot of the repetitive injuries that you get lessen. However, like if you're using that 18 volter to install or remove anything small, it's gonna break in half. Just, I know it sucks to do, but like read the manual and see what the torque that the tool is going to impart is, and then maybe like cross-reference that with the thing you're trying to install or remove. So I'm back. I am back at the shop. I am eagerly looking for new cool shit to show you. And I have a chest rig and a GoPro now. I'm going to do a couple test videos and see how they turn out, but I am going to save some of the weirder repairs, or even some of the, I guess, like, could be general purpose. I'll just save some of the, like, maybe I'll just install a chain and show you how I do it, or troubleshoot a bottom bracket, or troubleshoot a rear derailleur, or maybe some side pull single pivot brakes. Maybe I'll show you how to center those without using these special tools that you need usually. So that's the long-term plan. Is that I'm back from vacation. My chest is more or less healed. I only need to take Advil like 3 times a day as opposed to every 5 minutes. And yeah, we're starting to get less busy. That spring-summer rush is starting to peter out. I know that it's still very, very busy, but should have a little bit more energy. And yeah, so we're going to have some, tentatively, we're going to have some GoPro footage. And what I have like so I have like microphones here. I do music too, so I have like some Shure SM58 mics and like this breakout box, and I could, I suppose, bring in a microphone stand and have some decent audio. I kind of feel like the microphones might not be the best for that, so what I'm probably going to do is make 2 recordings. I'll have the GoPro, because GoPro's sound sucks ass. I will have a phone recording, like a high-res phone recording of the audio as I'm recording the video on the GoPro, and then I'll just put it into whatever, like Final Cut, and splice them together. So this is all new to me. It's not complicated, but like if you have kids and a full-time job, it can be hard to get the gusto to put all this stuff together. Yeah, I gained 8 pounds while I was on vacation for 8 days. That's a pound a day. Look at me. Yeah, big boy, big boy. So yeah, just keep in mind that like you only have this body, and there's not another body that's going to come in and like pinch hit for you. Like, just take care of yourself, you know. It truly adds up. You know, riding a track bike for a decade felt great at first. It added up. Lifting weights like a moron felt fine at first. It adds up. Not stretching, it adds up. And wrenching like a fucking mongoloid also adds up. So, God, can you even say mongoloid in 2018? Does it help that I'm Asian? Probably not. Alright, let's say wrenching like a deranged gorilla. Let's try that. Magilla gorilla. Anyway, look forward to showing you guys some actual wrenching videos now that I have some actual hardware to do it in. And Thanks for abiding by my fucking like 12-day absence. Have a good night. Yellow Sheldon out.